What's up, everybody? It is Odin here. It's Sunday evening making this video. So, hope you had a kick ass weekend. However, whatever you ended up doing with it, I hope it was great for you. And yeah, as we come to a close on this week and get ready for next week, I hope it winds down well for you. I actually have tomorrow off, so that's kind of a nice thing. So, I don't have to worry about going to work tomorrow. Um, and I feel this video will probably be pretty quick because I don't feel like I have a ton to talk about. But yeah, it's Sunday, so I figured I'd throw something up. There are a few things I want to touch on, and maybe once I get rambling, I'll think of some other shit. But cheers to you. Again, hope your weekend was awesome. So, like I said, have tomorrow off. That is a nice thing. So today I went. You might have seen it when I posted it. When I first visited Missouri, I went to the town of Odin, which is it's nothing. It's not really a town. It's a sign on the street, and there's a couple houses. There's a church, Odin Community Church or something like that. And if you go a little further, there's like a nature preserve with hiking trails and stuff that's called Odin. And it has a name that I can't fucking remember, and I didn't take any pictures. But I went back to that location, hadn't been there since my first trip out here before I moved here. And I figured I had to check out the town of Odin. Today I went back because I had a day. I felt like going for a little hike, and that was the one place I knew. So I went there. Wasn't bad. It was all overcast, but it was a little cooler. Very, very humid, though. That's just fucking thing that's a real thing out here. So that's one thing I could talk about. We'll do that real quick. I'll just get this out of the way. It's almost been a year, which is crazy to think about. It's almost been a year that I've been in Missouri. It seems like only yesterday I was driving out here in a U-Haul. But almost a year. Just a month away. 2 months away, sorry. 2 months away from being here. So 10 months, if you can do that kind of math. 10 months that I've been here, and I could give like some quick rundown thoughts. I'm not horribly impressed by much, but in general, the people I've met are pretty laid back, which is always nice. But like driving around, I feel there's a lot of like still like small dick douchebags who like tailgate you and shit. And I'm like, do you not understand aggression? Do you not know about aggression? I hate road rage. I will not engage in that. But sometimes I'm just like, you deserve whatever's coming your way, acting like that. But it's one of those days, like when you're on country roads that you don't know, like if I don't know it, I can't go as fast as somebody who does know it. And I drive pretty fast. I'm always over the speed limit. And the country roads out here have pretty high speed limits. You know, it would be like 55 on a road that's windy as hell. It's like, dude, I'd be flying off the road if I was going 55. But when you find a straightaway, you're obviously getting up to 60, 65 or whatever. But so I'm always above the speed limit, except for like when you can't. But it doesn't matter. Like out here, it's like another thing I noticed too. This is back to driving, and it becomes like a culture. It becomes like this is how we do it around here. And I'm like, all right, because everybody kind of does it. It's kind of like if you've got a yellow light or a yellow turn signal, you know, people will kind of like catch it just at the end and, you know, go over. Like they run a red light basically. But here it's like 3 or 4 cars after it's already turned red. So, and I noticed that's like pretty standard. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Like everybody just does that. So much so that I think their lights have been slowed down. So when one turns red, there's a longer delay before the next lights turn green. And I think it's because they just know that everybody's gonna, three or four more cars are gonna go through on a red light. Um, and I'm like, well, that's a dumb thing. I mean, like I said, everybody does it, or most everybody, to some extent. But like, to be like that third car and just like keep meandering through this red light, it's like, really? And then I imagine because I actually like will stop at a red light, you know, if it's like right on the cusp, I'll actually stop. I'm probably like driving the two people behind me crazy because they're like, oh, all three of us could have gone through that red light. What are you thinking? So that's an observation. One other is, I've talked at length about the weather because it was a pretty heavy, severe weather season. It's been a lot milder, uh, lately. Like severe weather's hit a lot of different areas in the world, and in the springtime it was hitting us really hard, and then now it's been, we get thunderstorms here and there, but it's not as crazy. So, but with that, this place is like very soaked, and it's like there's a lot of life springing forth, and the growth this time of year, I mean, it's just exploding with foliage, and I'm not used to that. I'm in dry climates. We'll get like a lot of growth in the spring, but already by this time of year, it's already starting to get brown. It's just starting to like dehydrate. And here it's like, no, it's full on. Like the air is humid. It's like a jungle. And now I can't stand the humidity, but the beauty of it is there. It's very beautiful. Like I said, it's like a jungle, like living in a jungle. You've got foliage everywhere. You've got greens all the time. But the downside is this fucking soupy, muggy air, this thickness in the air that just drives me insane. Because it's been like right around like 90 degrees for like weeks now. And today was a lot cooler, which was great, but it still had that soupy mugginess, but at least it was cooler. But, and I've dealt with 100-degree plus, like in Spokane or in Colorado, sometimes you'd get like a week of like 100-degree days, it just happens. But it's dry heat, and it still sucks. Like 100 degrees sucks. I don't care where you're at. Some people get a little more used to it than others, but it still sucks. But with that thickness in the air and that pressure on your whole body all the time, it's like, just don't even want to be outside. It's just like, forget about being sweaty. Like you feel like you're constantly sweaty. You're just like sticky and, so I don't like that. I do like the beauty of the foliage. The winter that we had was really mild. I don't know if it's mild by Springfield or Missouri-ish. It depends on where you're at in Missouri. Northern Missouri probably gets more snow, but it wasn't much. We got a lot of icy kind of weather, and that sucked. But it was fairly mild. But I remember in the winter, it's like really ugly. So all that green and beauty, it's all gone in the winter, and all these deciduous trees are just barren, and it's just ugly. And that's one thing, like coming from Washington State, where it's the evergreen state. In the winter, it is beautiful. All the trees are still green because they're all evergreens. And then when the snow falls on those trees, it looks like, a picture of Christmas. It looks like a Thomas Kincaid painting or something. It's just gorgeous. It's beautiful. And so even when it's snowy, and it just feels right. So that I miss. I miss a lot of things. I do definitely miss family and friends and stuff like that more than anything. But geographically, it's a real thing. So anyway, that's my impressions of Missouri so far. Hiking today at the Odin nature preserve or whatever. It's a hiking trail, and uh, it's really cool. I mean, there's viney, there's just nature everywhere, which I've got in my backyard. I've got a little forest and or jungle in my backyard, which I've explored a couple times, and it's just the same. Only the Odin place was more. It was new, you know. And there was a creek that runs through it that was really picturesque and cool. And yeah, it was just something different to experience. And then tomorrow, since I have the day off, I'll be going to I think it's called Roaring Rivers. It's a bit of a drive, but someone told me about it. And there I'll go wet a hook for the first time, try to catch some fish. It's near a hatchery, so I'll probably catch a bunch of 10-inch rainbow trout, which is kind of what I like catching. They really fight, but they're easy to catch, and so yeah. I've always been mostly a trout fisherman. I really enjoy trout fishing. But out here, especially working for Bass, I try not to say who I work for. I did mention it before. Working for Bass Pro Shops, but it's like, then everything's like bass fishing, you know. Catch those large and smallmouth, and I've never in my life caught a bass fish. So I've been bass fishing before. I just had horrible luck. And so I'm like, that sounds like it would be fun. Even though their range of size doesn't even come close to like trout. Like if you're fishing for like steelhead trout up in Washington or something, I mean, you could definitely get a 10 to 20 pounder even. And then you get like I said, the 12-inch hatchery fish, stockfish. But we'll go try that out tomorrow. Eventually, I'll probably upgrade my gear with my job and everything. And then yesterday, it was a pretty decent day. Not a bad birthday, but I didn't do I did have a nice meal and extremely spicy giant burrito, which is my go-to. And so big giant steak burrito with lots of the hottest stuff they could bring me at a place called Habaneros, but it's not like you can actually get habaneros in your food. So that kind of pissed me off. Even though it's a nice place, the food's really good. I'm like, your name's deceiving. It's called habaneros. You don't even have that as an option to have in your food. That's the whole reason I came here. But it's good. So I definitely liked it. Like, it was really good food. But it'd be nice if I could get habaneros inside. I need to bring my own habaneros and be like, can you guys go and cut this up for me and throw it inside my burrito? Thanks. And then I made my way to the comic book shop to drop off copies of Unconditional Shove, the second printing. Now that I have that second printing, I got a little buddy here, a little baby moth. Now that I got that second printing, that was what I was waiting for to start selling at the comic shop. When we finally get around to doing conventions and stuff, that's what we'll have. We'll keep printing. There'll be a third printing eventually, but I have plenty of copies of the second print, which turned out great. I showed it on my last video. But the comic book shop owner, she was really excited because I've been telling her about it for a while, and she thought it looked great. So hopefully we sell out there and I can give her some more. Let's see, what else? Picked up a couple books. Like I picked up this one, which is another creepy volume, but I left it open on this page. I thought this was pretty cool. This drawing here. This was like a fan submission from Ken Kelly. It says KW Kelly. It says from Plainview, New York, but I thought he was from Connecticut, but close enough. Maybe he moved. But I assume that's Ken Kelly, the artist who ended up doing a lot of painted covers for lots of things, but for Creepy and Eerie. And this one has a great Frazetta cover, one of my favorites. And I absolutely love these. I still think, as much as we talk about EC Comics and what they did for anthology storytelling and things like that, especially for horror, I still think Creepy and Eerie were the best. I think they like took it and honed it, and so I love getting those big collections, and I could just sit there and read those. But I'm still way behind on all my comics and trying to get through a lot of the crowdfunded ones that I keep getting. Like I got Rock and Roll Ninja. I finally read that. Really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It's wild, but like Matt's art so dynamic and fun. Really, really well done. The story is just kind of like it's like craziness, and that's all I expect. It's like a B movie in like the good kind of way. So that was really cool. I got through the Lost Pages, which those have been really, really good. It's actually pretty impressive. I'm like, what they're doing, the Diaz brothers with the Lost Pages is really awesome. So I think that's impressive. It's funny too. I just got notified. It says lightning in your area, and then it says Washington. Like it knows that I moved, because if there's lightning in this area, it'll say lightning in your area. But it still gives me all the updates from my old house, like as if I still live there. So anyway, that's just a side note. Trying to think if there was any other indies that I read lately. Those were all really big, Lost Pages and Rock and Roll Ninja, so they took a little bit more time. Plus, I don't know, I haven't been on top of it, so I need to catch up. I need to catch up so I can get to those big collections of Creepy and just soak those in, because they're so fun. What else? Well, while I think of something else, I'm going to make myself another drink. Again, tonight, drinking Boilermaker. I have some good whiskey that I bought for yesterday, but I won't use that on a Boilermaker. I'll use my Evan Williams. Evan Williams. Even in the plastic container. I found this to be a pretty good Boilermaker pairing. This was a little more expensive getting the Stella Artois, but now I'm getting Yingling, which is pretty common around here. I mean, I'd seen it and heard of it, but you don't get it up north. And it's not bad. It's not bad for the price. What's funny is it's got great color and it gives good head. But it still tastes just like kind of like an American lager. So kind of nothing special. It's definitely better than, like general American lagers. But so anyway, cheers. I guess we could talk about there was this presidential debate, like a debacle. I ended up watching it. I was just curious. I was it's one thing. I've seen like clips of Biden, and they're always making fun of like how old he is and how kind of senile he is, apparently, and just he seems very old. And I've been seeing clips. I'm like, man, this is a guy running our country. That's crazy. But that debate was, it really hit home. It's actually disturbing to see that much geriatric. Uh, because I've talked about this with people before. I've talked about it on streams and other things where the topic of politics or, Joe Biden. And I remember back when he was Obama's running mate, before he was vice president, and he was in debates as the vice president, but he would be in the vice president debates, and he was sharp. He was really good at debating, and would almost like school because I think at the time it was Paul Ryan. I think memory's a little hazy, but I think I remember him just like schooling that younger man. And Biden was older, but he was obviously not as old as he is now. But he was really sharp and really good at debating. Now, those days are long gone. I mean, long, long gone. It is, for one, every time you see a president, like they get into office, this is like a notorious thing. You can see it. Like the beginning of their term, their hair is a lot darker. Their features are a lot younger. And within 4 years, they age so much. And I can't imagine why not. It's got to be the most grueling job mentally and emotionally in the world. So that's understandable. But when somebody gets elected, and they're already seeming like a little enfeebled and old, the decline is pretty serious. And I've heard people make the statement of like, people should be charged with elder abuse. And, I always thought, it's a little overblown. But after that debate, I was kind of like, it kind of does seem like that. Especially after seeing, there was a clip of his wife, Jill, just like, you did great, Joe. She was like pinning a gold star on his forehead and hanging his his picture on the refrigerator. It was like very much how you would talk to a toddler when they succeeded at something, but it was so like the bar was so low. She was just like, you answered every question. It's like, that's the bar. You answered like. Were you worried he wasn't going to answer one of them? He was just going to fall asleep or something. It was really, I mean, it's sad. Now, counter to that, I wasn't extremely impressed with Trump, nor have I ever really been, but he did decent, and he's always been an interesting one in debates. And this time he really pulled back, and I think there was a strategic move, and probably a good one. But there's a few times where he's like, I don't understand that last sentence. I don't think he knew what he said. That was a pretty biting retort. But what was funny to me is when they would show the side by side. It was probably my favorite thing. Is to watch Biden's facial features while Trump was talking and vice versa. Because when Trump was talking and saying all this stuff, Biden was just like, it was just the weirdest look. I don't even know how to explain it. It was, I think these guys have real contempt for each other. I think they really don't dislike each other, and then when Trump was listening to Biden talk, it would crack me up because if I were there, I'd be like making some weird faces because I'm like, what is this gibberish, But he was just like, just kind of like, I'm listening kind of look, which made it funnier, in my opinion. So for entertainment purposes, I'll say for entertainment purposes, it was still a pretty good debate. But that and then there was a lot of hand wringing from the Democratic Party afterwards, and rightfully so, I would say. But what's weird to me is that they were surprised. Like I said, it was a bit more present and pressing to me that his decline was real, even though I'd been seeing it. But like, I saw so many clips, it wasn't that like shocking. You know, I'm like, well, that's kind of what I expected. You know, there's part of me is like, I wonder if he'll be like sharp like he used to be. There was part of me that wondered that, but really, I wasn't that surprised. But the fact that the whole party is surprised is what's interesting to me. I'm like, you didn't see this decline? You haven't been paying attention, like at all? It's been apparent for a while. And yeah, it was really an interesting thing. And it was interesting because it was CNN held it and moderated it. And all things being equal, I thought they did a pretty fair job. They didn't seem biased. They just kind of like let the candidates hang themselves, if anything, you know. So, which is basically all they're there to do. So that was pretty good. But in general, my takeaway was it's kind of like yikes. Like this really is the leader of the free world, the United States, and for his age, like again, the office of the presidency happens really fast. It happens to every one of them. Like Obama, when he was elected, seemed really young and spry, and by the time he got out, his hair was gray. It's just like it's what happens to all of them, you know. Like they look like they aged 20 years and 4 years. And yeah, it's understandable. But when Biden was elected, he was already seeming well past the Biden that we'd known previous. And now it's like. So Bill Burr used to have this joke about how women and men age different. You know, like how men kind of hold it together and women start this slow decline, and we hold it together, but then there's this big drop off and women just have a slower decline. So theirs starts earlier and it's more noticeable at first, but then guys, once we hit that point, then it's just like, wow, just like free fall. And he at the end of the joke, he was talking about, you know, that old guy, like go to family gatherings and there's that old guy who just looks like he's constantly in pain. He's just like, you know, like he gets up, everything he does just looks like he's in constant pain and decay. And that's what I feel like. That's what it looks like. And he's like hit that point. But both my grandparents on my mom's side, my dad's side, lived a long life. And my granddad on my dad's side lived to be 93, I think, or 94, into his 90s anyway. And even up until the end, he didn't seem like he had that kind of a decline. And same with my mom's dad, who, when he passed, you know, it was late 80s, and he just kind of felt like, you know, the time had run out, but he didn't seem like he was just like so lost in his, like, lost his faculties and things. And the loss of faculties, you know, people have talked about that, like actual incontinence and things. And I think that's got to be one of the most embarrassing things. I don't know how substantiated all that is, but the thought that you have your world leader like actually defecating themselves in public is troublesome, to say the least. I mean, the term shit happens. I mean, shit does happen. Like, even young men, like, every once in a while, like, whoop, I can't believe that just happened, you know? Like, but it's not so much an incontinence thing. It's more of a, like a shart or something. You're like, oh, I thought that was going to turn out quite different. But incontinence is a different thing. So I don't know. As I talk about these things, I'm like, it's just crazy to even talk about. You want a certain level of experience with the office of presidency, but at a certain point, an old person is an old person. They still have insight and things to give, but there's a reason why the retirement age is 65. It's not that everyone has to retire at 65. It's just there's a point where your level of production and ability really diminish. I used to actually liken it to like a circular thing, and I've heard comedians talk about this because like they go, oh, you start off in diapers and then you end up in diapers. But there's a certain level of that's true. Like you have to be taken care of as a child. And, we still take care of teenagers, but in a very practical sense, they're able to take care of themselves. Now, they're not because of child labor laws and things like that, and they're still in school and all this other stuff. But as far as if you just tossed them in the wild, they're able to take care. So it's like a child, like an infant or a toddler, really needs care. They need taken care of. An old person at a certain point needs care. They need taken care of. They are not physically capable of taking care of themselves. And so, yeah, the whole thing, you start off in diapers, you end up in diapers. That's kind of that circular thing. And it really becomes like you are like a child in that sense. And I'm 100% reverence and take care of our old, if somebody's lived to be 80 or 90, they've really earned some sort of right for the rest of the people around them to take care of them. Both of my parents passed away younger than being fully enfeebled. But if either of them had got to the point, there would be no hesitation of you can live with me. I will take care of you. I will make sure that the last years of your life are not a big struggle. And that's not even a question. And so that's the reverence we should show to the elderly. But at that point, they're not the ones making the decisions. They offer insight and wisdom, and they're still should be reverenced and taken care of, but they're not the decision makers, and they're not the ones running the country. So when it comes down to it, even though Donald Trump seemed as capable as he did back when he was president as far as his mental faculties, Biden, I can't say that. I can't even come close to saying that. It's night and day. It's obvious to anybody who isn't overcome with their stupid bias and emotions that he is not only past his prime, he's moved. It feels like it could be any moment. So, yeah. So that was a debacle. It was interesting, and a lot of the quick hot take reactions were pretty funny. But so, yeah, I found this shirt, in my old shirts. This is Corey Kent. Corey Kent is a country music artist, and I don't like modern country. I've talked about this a lot. I love old country. It's very important to me, but modern country is a whole nother thing. I hate it. I just cannot stand it. But I I don't want to say reluctantly, but I found myself at a modern country concert. This is back. I was dating this girl, and we ended up going to Corpus Christi, Texas, to see her sister. And while we were there, one of the plans was let's go to this concert, and it was super cool. It was actually a lot of fun. So in Corpus Christi, can't remember the name of it, but it was a bar. It was kind of like the new Roadhouse, like that kind of bar. Had like really open like rafter areas that they could close or open. And it was about 300 to 500 people capacity. So it was like decent size, but certainly wasn't like this big concert venue. So it was like a bar, but it was also a concert hall. It was really cool. And a lot of the artists were actually pretty good. And I always have a different appreciation for a musical artist when I see them live. But the one who stood out was this guy, Corey Kent. And his band, they were a lot of fun. The music was well done. The performance was really well done. And I was like, well, it was a trip and a concert that I would never normally go to. I was like, well, let's, get something to remember this by. And I saw this shirt. I thought it was pretty cool. It reminded me of my father, who was very involved in rodeo. But it kind of has like the Marlboro lettering on the side. And it's distressed. And I was like, that's a cool shirt. I'll get that and support him. That was a lot of fun. Drank a bunch of Shinerbach and a bunch of whiskey, and because I wasn't driving, I didn't have any responsibilities. Like, we're just having fun. And bought a shirt, and it was a good time. And what's weird is I never looked him up ever since. And so when I found this shirt, I'm like, oh, I'm going to wear that. And then I was like, well, let's look up some of his stuff on YouTube. Maybe he's a rising star, and it seems like he's doing pretty good. But the music videos that I watched and all his music that I have heard, I'm like, this shit sucks. I fucking hate it. This is not. And that's the difference between a live performance and obviously drinking a bunch of Shinerbach and whiskey because you're in Texas. You feel like you got to do that. The difference between the live performance and the recordings and the videos, it was just so bad. I'm like, ugh. This is like everything I hate about modern country. So whatever. I enjoyed the performance. I wish I'd never looked him up again, because otherwise I would just be like happy with like that memory. But now it's like kind of, it's not tainted, but I'm like, I was duped. His live performance tricked me. So anyway, not a fan of modern country. To that point, though, I'm trying. They're taking forever. Uploading driving and singing videos, but they're in these like clusters. So I basically like rehashing some of my favorites with some new songs that I've never done. And I did it on random, so I called it Song Roulette. And I do like 4 or 5, whatever I could fit into a commute or a driving moment. If I could sing 4 or 5 songs, and but a lot of that was to like show. I talked about this last video. My brother was like, "Are those all like, live takes or whatever?" And I'm like, "Well, if I suck, I delete it or whatever." But to do 4 songs in a row on roulette, like I was like, I'm not deleting these. So it's like mistakes and all. And they turned out pretty good, all things considered. But it was kind of like to show that, I could do multiple songs in a row. Like, I don't know, it was more for myself to like, kind of like, yeah, I used to do full shows where I was screaming and yelling my head off and still had a voice afterwards, So, I know how to sing. I know how to properly do it. And those were just my little section of commuting. But I could actually, um, singing like that, I could do 2 3 hour concert, no problem. The thing is, though, I'm going to talk about this too. Like when you're in your car, it's not the best situation for singing because you're sitting down and there's bumpy road and everything. But you're not exerting the kind of energy you do when you're doing live performance. Like, especially if you're doing like metal and like energetic music, like your stage performance has to match the intensity of the music. So when I was playing like in Theory on X and Core Box and stuff, I mean, I was like, well, just go be a madman. It's not like I can dance, or I wouldn't be doing metal if you don't really dance to metal anyway. So I don't dance, but I can move rhythmically, which is basically dance, but like I can move rhythmically with this intense music and just be a bull, a bull in a china shop on stage. And one thing I learned about good metal performances and punk performances, same thing, is like don't perform to the audience, perform at the audience. Like they want to see that aggression, they want to see that intensity. So you're basically like provoking them with your intensity. And so, like, if you could basically go up there almost like you're angry at them, even though you're not at all angry at them. But that's kind of like that's the music, that's the aggression of the music. So you've got to go up there with the posturing and the facial contortions of somebody who's really angry and full of energy and very animated in that aggression, and perform at the audience and not as much for them. Whereas other styles of music you perform for the audience, but with aggressive music, it's like perform at the audience, or in small environments, it's almost like with the audience. They're like right there, and you're getting kicked in the face by somebody crowd surfing or something. It's like you're like right in the mix of it. You're just the one supplying the music, but you're all in the sweaty pit. So where was I going with that? I don't know. Oh, just talking about performance. And so when I was practicing, so we would do rehearsals 2 times a week. Just run through our songs. We would also work on new songs, all the other stuff. 2 times a week, we'd get together and do that. But when we were running through our songs or deciding on our set lists for our next shows, I had a weighted vest, like a workout vest that you could add these plates, and they were all like 3 pounds, but you could make it about a 45-pound vest, which I never went that heavy, especially for this, but I would make it about 20 pounds of weight. And then we would practice and I would perform and I would jump around and do everything like almost like I was on stage. It wasn't quite as intense because you don't actually have the crowd, but it was like I was trying to mimic that with this weighted vest. Because the thing is, if you do things with all this weight on you and you take the weight off, it feels like you can do those things on air. You're just light as a feather. So I was like, okay, if I can do all these performances with this heavy weight, then I won't gas out when it's time to perform. Because singing is all about breath control. And when you're jumping around doing all this, and I've never been known to have great cardio, I smoke and all this stuff, but I was like, I did do athletics and stuff when I was young, so there's an element of cardio, so I was like, I can do this, but you have to train. And I looked at it almost like an athletic thing. I was like, I've got to train. If I want to perform at the level I want to perform, I have to train at that level to get there. Or train my body to not, it's the same as a fighter sparring or something. Or two-a-days for football players. It's like you're doing all this stuff to try to just mold your body to be ready, so that way when it's showtime, you go out there and it's just muscle memory, and your body feels light as a feather because you're used to doing it with all this extra weight or all this extra pressure. So, anyway, I don't know where I was going with all that. I kind of miss performing. I really do. I miss writing music as well. People often ask me if I miss it. And it's like, there's certain elements I miss. I don't miss the grind of it. It's almost like if I could perform a show a year, that would be great. But the thing is, like, the grind of it is actually what makes you good at it. It makes it second nature and muscle memory. But ideally, in my head, it's like, yeah, I'd love to write more music. And I'm doing that with this project in particular, Kill Them Dead. I like writing music, but I also really do miss performing. I miss like having that crowd and that energy. But doing it regularly, it's draining. Is very exhausting, and it's not for everybody. And honestly, if I didn't have children, I probably would have just made that my lifestyle. I think the grueling nature of it would bother me at moments, but the highs would be enough to compensate. Like, the whole reason I stepped back from it is because I was like, you're a dad. You have to, you need to be in your children's life and not on the road as much and things like that. So, but yeah, like I said, I don't know where it's going with that. But we can talk about this. This is another page for Kill Them Dead, which is, I'm trying not to skimp on the artwork. It's slowly coming along. So I'm putting a lot of time into it, but I said this last video, I've said this a few times, I need to kind of crack the whip on myself as far as like production art-wise. I've been extra busy with work, and I've been just a little less ambitious and motivated personally lately. But those things come in spurts, so when I catch the next wave, I just got to ride it and and just kick ass and do tons of work in a row. But I also don't want to shortchange it, Oftentimes when you get excited, like making art for a story, you just start going, I want to get on to the next page. And so you just start like slopping it together. And I really don't want to do that with this. So it will take a little bit of time, but if you're interested in Kill Them Dead and you've been following along, the patience will be worth the wait. Like, not holding back on this. It's gonna be great. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna work on. I kind of want to stop this video so I can keep working on it, but because I am enjoying drawing this page. With that, I'll just say, with Independence Day coming up, I'll probably make an Independence Day video next week, talking about my thoughts about that, because I really do love the holiday of Independence Day. I love the term. I love the name Independence Day. I don't like when people call it the 4th of July, because I think that diminishes what it actually is. So I call it Independence Day. But I'll probably have some more thoughts on that next video if I make one. But but for now, in the meantime, don't lose an appendage. Blow shit up responsibly. And wherever you're at in life, whatever you're doing, I hope you're facing all your challenges and obstacles with courage, confidence, strength, power, great care for the loved ones around you, and always, always, always act with integrity as much as possible. And I believe if you do that, time will prove you right. And you will die with less regret and a better legacy to leave behind. So anyway, until next time, thank you again. If you watched all this, I really appreciate you. I don't know why you would watch all this, but if you did, I really appreciate it. And until next time, or before I say that, check the links below. Sign up for the things, back the things. We're always working on cool shit. And until next time, we'll see you. It's Odin.